Competency to consent to research. And my name is Kaitlin McAllister. So what is competency to consent to research? Some key points. So the competency to consent to research is to study to see if participants can consent to research. Informed consent is a main one when it comes to competency to consent to research. The legal requirements. There's also two different types of research. There's social and behavioral research, and then there's going to be biomedical science research. The last key point is going to be evaluation and tools. Informed consent. Competency to consent to research is considered a subcategory to informed consent. There are three key points for informed consent. The three key points are disclosure, competency, and voluntariness. Disclosure. Forms to understand the research study that is presented. As stated in Melton's book on page 372, the forms are often lengthy and written in vocabulary beyond the comprehension of many or even most patients. Competency, being able to understand the study. Are you able to understand the disclosure forms that are being presented? Voluntariness. The research study must be a choice. If someone does not want to participate, then they should not be forced or promised anything for their participation. So there are two different types of research. As stated in Melton's book, there's social and behavioral science research, which social and behavioral science research carries little to no risk to significant harms of subjects. And biomedical science research often does present significant risk to patients. When looking at these two types of research, social and behavioral science research is not going to have a significant harm to the subjects because you're going to be looking more at the social cues, social behavior, and the behavior of the certain participants and how they're interacting with others, for example. An example for biomedical science could be a clinical trial, new treatment, drug trials, such as that. Legal requirements. So as stated in Melton's book, the numeric code is enacted after a horrific human act, human rights abuse in Nazi Germany, carried out the name of research. Legal framework in this area by prohibiting any research using persons who cannot provide valid informed consent. In the United States, human subject research is regulated primarily by the rules of the Department of Health and Human Services. The rules and regulations are adopted by most federal agencies. The regulations provided for administrative review for all human research by the local institutional boards. The institutional review boards are often considered RIBs, are often required that the participant provides informed consent. These are the ones that are going to have an 8-step disclosure forms and being able to see if the research does require that disclosure form in the 8 steps. So these are going to be the 8 steps for the institutional review boards. Number 1, a statement that the study involves research, an explanation of the purpose of the research, the expected duration of the subject's participation, a description of the research produces, and the identification of any experimental procedures. Number 2, the reasonable foreseeable risk or discomfort of the subjects. 3, benefits to the subjects or others that the research might yield. 4, appropriate alternative procedures or courses of treatment that might be advantageous to the subject. 5, the extent of any of comparability of records identifying the subject. This is going to be under HIPAA or any other legal rules. Is the subject involving more than minimal risk? An explanation as to any comprehensive and whether any medical treatments are available in the event of an injury. 7, a contact for answers to questions regarding the research as well as subjects' rights. 8, a statement that the participation is voluntary, that refusal of the participant will carry no loss of benefits, and the participation may be discontinued at any time without penalty. So, as I stated before, Department of Health and Human Services are the ones that are going to make the rules and regulations. There are participants with special protections when it comes to research. As presented in Mel's book, research on prisoners is often forbidden because of the risk of coercion. Research on prisoners can be done, but as stated in the bullet point two, unless the research is directly related to the study of criminology, behavior, or incarceration, it involves only risks that would be accepted by non-prisoner volunteers. What this means is that the research can be presented to the prisoners, but the risk to the prisoners has to be the exact same risk as it would be to the general population, people who are not in prison. Number three also does not involve incentive for participation that would influence the prisoner's participation. The prisoner cannot be given special treatment, cannot be given stuff that they usually would not have. The next one with special protections is research on children. As stated in Melton's book, requires the access of the children and permission of the parent. The child can consent to the research, but the overall full informed consent is going to be from the parent. Additional review when the research involves more than minimal risk, and additional review when the children are wards of the state. If the research is going to be more minimal risk and the parent is just putting them in there because, all parents are not good, it's going to have additional review. And also, if the child is wards of the state, they do not have any guardians, they do not have any parents, there's going to be additional review with that as well. The last one that was presented in Mel's book is research involving psychiatric patients. The Department of Health and Human Services never implicated proposed regulations of research involving psychiatric patients. Psychiatric patients are actually going to fall under the general regulations. This is also seen as wrong in certain ways. Because people with mental disorders are also seen as vulnerable, as stated in Melton's book. They may need special protection and particularly careful assessment with respect to consent to research participation. So there's always problems that can arise. A problem that can arise to competency to consent to research would be people with more serious disorders can perform more poorly than people with less serious disorders. There are some examples that were given in Melton's book. Some examples where people with Alzheimer's disease can perform poorly in absolute terms. People with schizophrenia perform more poorly than people that are diagnosed with depression. People with depression are also shown as good competency-related skills. A solution to this, presented in Melton's book, poor performance on measure of capability consent to research can be remediated by educational intervention. If you're able to educate the people with more serious disorders that are having a little bit harder time with certain aspects of competency to consent to the research, you may be able to educate them. Evaluation. An evaluation of competency to consent to research minors the evaluation of competency to consent to treatment. The McAllister Competency Assessment Tool for Clinical Research. This tool is used to be able to show the understanding, reasoning, appreciation, and ability to express a choice. This tool is going to be used to evaluate if someone is going to be able to consent to research and give their informed, valid consent. This tool is used because of what the tool is able to relate to competencies such as understanding, reasoning, participation, and ability to express a choice. When you're looking at informed consent and you're looking at the RIBs, these are some of the main ones that are going to be presented. So this tool is able to show if they have the right competency to consent to research. The assessment must be constructed. Also, what I thought was important that was presented in Mel's book is that number of studies have shown that repeat learning tools and corrective feedback were associated with improvements of understanding. So there are learning trials, there are corrective feedback when it comes to consent to research. Being able to give that person the best possible understanding is the best way you can get informed consent and then competency consent to research. This is a short video that will explain a little bit more about informed consent. So my discussion question, if you're going to do a research project, how would you make sure you had informed consent? And what would you do to make sure the disclosure had all the correct RIBs presented for informed consent? Then my references is, of course, going to be Melton's book. and then the video that I just presented. Thank you.